So it's now 12 minutes past 2 in the morning on the 7th of November, and that's at Irish time. Now, um, there's a lot of speculation online. A lot of people are saying lots of different things about what's going to happen and all this and all the rest of it. But and pardon me if I'm tooting my horn with this particular next remark, but I am an experienced litigant. I've been in the paper. I was only in the paper this week again in relation to litigation. I lost a judicial review that I brought in Hope. I was granted 15 grounds of leave and I lost on all of them. So, unlike Gemma O'Doherty and John Waters, they weren't granted leave. I was granted leave. They weren't granted a protective costs order after the event. I was granted a protective costs order after the event. What's this got to do with Trump? Well, Ms. Justice Hyland published a ruling. She actually published it on the 22nd of October. It was sent to myself and to the defendants and to all the other parties in the case. There was one notice party in the case. She published a detailed ruling and she more or less said that I hadn't made the case. I was looking for specific orders in judicial review and I didn't get it. I had in advance sought a protective costs order and I was given it. But in order to get a protective costs order, you have to go into court and get it, whereas everybody else in the case wrote to me. They said they aren't going to they're not going to force my hand. So we're not going to go back to court for me to get costs struck out. They've all agreed to it and that's been written into the final court order. Well, what's the point? The point is this. So much of litigation, particularly in Ireland with judicial review, is not about the winning, it's about the taking part. This explains, in fact, why people settle litigation. They don't settle litigation necessarily because they think that the plaintiff has a cast iron case. They settle litigation because they do not want to have a catfight in court in which things come out about them, win or lose, that they don't want coming out about them. Furthermore, one of the features of litigation, particularly just at High Court level here in Ireland, is even if you lose a case in the High Court, there can be many features in the ruling where the judge has written in detail why he or she refused your case, that you can extrapolate further beyond the High Court into the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court. You might lose up there as well. But the process irons out points of law and can be very embarrassing, particularly for people in private commercial industry. Now, Donald Trump, so far, there is nothing to suggest to me that Joe Biden is going to be the next president of the US. I say this as somebody with court experience, and I don't use lawyers, so I know, I've been up against that coalface of the court myself, and I've not been very successful over the years. That's okay. What I've learned, though, is that there is a big difference between what goes on in court and what goes on Twitter and what goes on RTE. Well, there are lots of differences between the real world and what goes on RTE. What Trump, in my opinion, watching this objectively, I believe that Trump is playing a 1000% blinder here. I also believe that he is the man of the moment and that he was sent to deal with this shit. Because he's dealing with it. He's bold, he's clear-minded, he's courageous, he's decisive. He's not going to back down. And the Democrats know that. So my prediction, in short, is that what's going to happen is that once Trump gets this into the gate of the Supreme Court, that the Democrats will suddenly say, well, we think we've a great case here, and, Joe, obviously Joe was the person for the job, but it's in the national interest to back down here. We'll be magnanimous and we'll let Mr. Trump have the second term, and he'll take it. He'll take it because, there's only one president. And all the rest of it is shouting and hot air and all the rest of it. Joe Biden did not win Florida or Texas or Ohio. That's not contested now. We know that. He did not get those three major states. There's an awful lot of skullduggery going on in other states, Pennsylvania, Georgia, the rest of them, Arizona. There's a lot of chicanery happening there. And what Trump has also achieved is, when he said there was a conspiracy, well, he was right. You know, it's like somebody saying, I may be paranoid, but I still think they're out to get me. And this is the case here. And it's interesting to look at Twitter and to look particularly in one particular thing. There's a particular phrase or paragraph that's being repeated in which people are saying that their life wouldn't be worth living if Trump didn't get defeated. And the people who are repeating this paragraph don't realise that they're placing a curse on themselves. Because what happens when Trump gets back in?